welcome listeners. In a week where Harry Maguire became the hero and Andre Onana assisted him, in a week where Erling Haaland came back to form, we will see United versus City as the talkie game to go to. But there have been many other games that we want to talk about. To do that, on the panel today we have RK, Ashwin, and Radhaji. Boys, how are you doing? How has it been? It's been an eventful week, I would say.
Yeah, certainly an eventful week, eventful two games, I would say. Harry Maguire, Diego Dallo, Andre Onana, all these people who we have been, slating for the last few weeks, have come up as heroes for United. So, yeah, the club is no short of drama, and long may the drama continue.
What are your talkie points? Ashwin, you've already started us off. So, is Harry Maguire center stage of your talkie point?
I think Harry Maguire is center stage of all my memes, but no, I'll go for a different one actually. So um, it's from the game at Celtic Park, and Celtic were actually warned before the game not to show any form of support or allegiance towards Palestine. So what do their fans do? All 75,000 of them, and are waving the Palestine flag uh, in in pure defiance. And it was actually a really touching moment as well because they played their anthem as well. So you never walk alone. So it was a really touching moment. Again, not taking any sides here because I know it is an ongoing issue. It's an ongoing war, but it just felt very human to watch that.
All right. Talking about the other United fan, RK, good to see you back. What's your talking moment?
Hey guys, so basically we had a midweek game where the main entertainment was I think on both the ends of the match, and most of the things that were in between were very very disappointing. So last minute going into the last few seconds, the last kick, United up 1-0. The second half better than the first and just hoping to get those 3 points, and then unexpectedly, or I think we should be saying expectedly by now, on the last kick, some real mishap happens, like silly mistake. McTominay concedes that foul, and at that moment I had completely given up hope that United are going to do anything in the Champions League this time. 1 point from 3 games, it's a recipe for going out. So that I was completely sitting in a resigned state of mind. Something inside me told me that okay, this might be saved, but I wasn't even contemplating thinking about that. Larson's son steps up, and I think doesn't take a great penalty, but very very good save, and all the mobbing of the teammates, and it was a great moment for Onana, and hopefully it's a launchpad for him. So that's my talking moment of the week. Of course, it was a tough choice because Maguire scored, and he has his own redemption arc going on there, and Sir Bobby Charlton. I think it was a great, very emotional tribute to him with the bagpiper, playing the 1958 song, and a crowd in a very emotional state. So that obviously that was a tough choice, but I'll go for the Onana one.
All right. And bringing the non United perspective, Radhaji, what's your talking moment?
Yeah, moment from the derby, the Merseyside derby. Obviously, winning the derby is always good. It was a tough game. We always make it tough against Everton, but after so long, after coming on this podcast and ranting for several weeks now about referees and decisions and VAR and whatnot, things finally went Liverpool's way from a refereeing point of view. Ashley Young deservedly got sent off for his fouls, and Konate rather undeservedly stayed on the field for after a pretty obvious second yellow. So yeah, he should have walked as well, but definitely got lucky there. So, or maybe the refereeing curses are starting to lift, I hope. But yeah, an obvious red card for Konate wasn't given by the ref for a second yellow. So yeah, that's my talkie moment. The good times are back again.
Do you think rather that the game should be replayed then?
I think Everton has such a nice record at Anfield that I'm okay with that.
Spoken like a fan of a confident team, which is on song. For me, the talking point was Mudrik's goal slash lob. Was it intentional? Was it non-intentional? I have no clue. People say things in
The
press conferences.
XG
I
of
don't know.
that, the XG of that was -1. So yeah, I'm don't. The X cross of that was 100. So yeah, it's not intended.
Let's see. I think if I'm not mistaken, and Arun's rants rarely give away things on the WhatsApp group. I think Raya was supposedly lobbed again in midweek against Sevilla. It's just that the ball hit the post this time round. So that didn't become as big a talking point as when Mudrik did that. But yeah, that was fun to see. And for once, Stamford Bridge was rocking because we had a two-goal lead, but unfortunately it went away. Anyway, let's start off with the United week. Basically, a lot of things going on. As you mentioned, Sir Bobby Charlton passing away, the game against Sheffield United, which wasn't a convincing win by any stretch of the imagination, if you can say so, only 1-0 against a team which is battling relegation. Then midweek, going into a one lead and at the last moment potentially throwing it away, but then that save by Onana, Maguire, Dallo, Onana, people coming center stage. And now I don't know. We know that the Sun is not reputable, but apparently read today that De Gea could be signed on a short-term deal because Onana will go for the AFCON. It's, as you guys say, it's never a dull day at Manchester United. So why don't you guys take us away and take us into this world of the Red Devils?
Like I said last time out as well, it's becoming a kind of a repetitive feature, right? All the drama that comes along with Man United. There's never a single week where something does not happen off field. So this week it was, well, not a drama, but a really sad news in the sense that one of the, well, it wasn't particularly last week, the weeks following, that Sir Bobby Charlton obviously passed away, and it was definitely an emotional moment for the club. Um, all the history that comes along with it, the Munich disaster, how he won the league with that team, how he bounced back, how he won us the European Cup. So I was expecting some kind of response, like response in a positive way, but it wasn't to be. So starting with the Sheffield United game, it's I mean, if there is one team that can give the worst team in the Premier League some confidence, it seems to be Man United. That first half, Sheffield United just outplayed us. It was just terrible to watch. I can start blaming players like Rashford. I think he deserves a lot of blame, but like the entire system was not correct. Like there was something that is just not landing in with the players, and it almost feels like they don't want to play for the manager, which is a really you know really sad thing to see because we all think that Eric Ten Hag is the coach who can take us to the next level. But time after time after time, what we are seeing is that the players are just not able to step up. Second half, I think we did much better. Um, uh, of course, the changes helped as well, and then Diego Dalot came up with the goods. No one was expecting him to score a worldie like that. And I think it was only fitting that he got a goal which is very much reminiscent of how Bobby Charlton would have scored the goal because he was known to score goals from really far out, hit the ball really hard. So I think, I mean, again, like the last week I was celebrating a win against Brentford. This week we're celebrating a win against Sheffield United. I don't think we'll be celebrating a win against the best team in the planet next week. So it's just really, really concerning.
The Jinxers are out. The Jinxers are out in full attendance. Ashwin not letting RK get to it first, shooting first there. Good to see.
But Ashwin, I don't agree that it's about players' motivation. Players don't look demotivated to me. They might be looking a bit demoralized, but definitely don't look demotivated. I don't think it's a case of not wanting to play for the manager. For me, more than the players right now, the buck stops with the coaching and the manage. What is the kind of training that is going on? Because like paradoxically, in the first few games of the season, when we were losing to Spurs, to Arsenal, to Bayern, there were actually really good things happening in those games. In the way that we were trying to, or we dominated, at least half an hour of each of those games. So there were good things to do, but I think a lot of dependence is there in this whole structure on trying to win the ball in the final third. Other than that, there is no discernible identity that was there in those matches or now. So even the games against Sheffield and against Copenhagen, the reason that we played so badly in the first half is that when the ball is with the centre backs and they're trying to pass out from the back, you don't see any way in which how they are going to progress the ball up, because no one is really dropping in, no one is trying to invite the press, and there is a lot of attempt to lump the ball up and then try to win the second ball, or switch the play wide and try to create overloads, which is never going to work when you are trying to go from directly from the defensive phase to directly into the final third. You are going to end up losing more balls than you win. And after that, we know that we are having midfield issues where it's not easy to win the ball high up the field when you lump it up. So it's very different to having a transition situation where you lose the ball and you immediately press. So I mean, I don't see any like that is a very big worry for me, that why isn't Ten Hag able to instill a very convincing build-up structure? That was an issue which was there last season as well in a lot of games, but then with Lisandro Martinez and Shaw playing, I think that was overridden to a large extent. We thought that Onana would help us progress in that mode, but after the first few games, I really haven't seen Onana's passing skills being used at all. It's almost looks like a tactical thing that Onana is being made to kick the ball up the field, and the number of it's probably a result of his confidence as well, that he was really good at aerial balls with Inter, but he's not able to find any players in space with those balls. And it's also a result of course, people like Rashford not really being good in the air. So those are the reasons that we don't play well in the last few games in the first half, and then Eric Ten Hag comes out and speaks very publicly about wanting to be more patient in the build-up, and stuff like that, and things improve, but still you don't see like, at least I don't see any real patterns being played out. But at least being more patient, I think right now is good enough against teams like Copenhagen and Sheffield, and the other team that we beat, Brentford. So probably it's good enough for these teams, but it's nothing at all with respect to the fixtures that are coming up, Man City, Newcastle. So if we go on this way without any progress, I really don't see how we are going to get good performances against City and Newcastle going forward.
Yeah, and I think the most worrying part of that is how people have now started showing up stats like, oh, Manchester United play better with Harry Maguire. They have a much lesser, loss percentage ratio or whatever it is when Harry Maguire is playing. I mean, this is his level. He looks good because I mean, these are not the teams that we should be competing against. We should be competing with the likes of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, even, right? And it is just really, really terrible to see the way we are playing, the how we are struggling against teams like this. Um, Coming to the Copenhagen game, uh, they had almost as many shots on target as United did. And this is a team that has just got 1 point uh, in, I think, in the last 2 years or something in the Champions League. And they look like proper ballers at Old Trafford. So it is really concerning for me. I don't know if there is an end to this. I don't know if Ten Hag is able to figure out a way to get these people to play. Maybe the people coming back from injuries might help, but at this point, it is really concerning.
I have a question about Ericsson. the way he's being used right now as a second half sub and coming on, which makes sense in terms of his longevity. He's obviously not got the legs for 90 minutes, but that seems to be helping. My question on that is, where is this leaving people like Mount in the hierarchy in terms of what's their status now in the team in terms of okay, the first sign of danger, probably you hook folks like him off to make sure that you have people you trust, and Mount doesn't seem to be getting that level of trust for me, or am I misreading the situation there?
It's not about trust. I mean, trust should be based on performances, right? And to be honest, other than like I pointed out on the pod that I was very impressed with how he played against Bayern Munich. But other than that, it's not been really been an encouraging start. He's not really had many touches of the ball, so it's not like he's dictating position in the way that Ericsson can do. He was brought into the team to act like a kind of advanced double pivot, so to say, with Bruno. We have not seen that evidence in the final third as well. Of course, you expect people to take some time to bed in, and Mount will get that time, but you know ultimately the team has to be picked on performances, something that's not happened with Rashford, but it's happening with Mount because the like the complete balance in midfield is is such a problem. So for example, you take McTominay, who scored 2 goals against Brentford. You can't drop him after someone scores 2 goals, but McTominay is an even bigger problem on the ball than Mount is. Mount at least showing signs of improvement, and we know that he has the skill set. McTominay had 12 touches of the ball in the first half against Sheffield United. You can't expect to dominate the midfield. With one of your midfielders having 12 touches of the ball. And I think what this kind of structure does with either a McTominay or a Mount is that it's also reduced Bruno's effectiveness this season. Bruno's not been as effective, and the second half against Copenhagen, where we were good in certain patches, was also because Bruno was playing as an all-out number 10 with Eriksen and McTominay dropping deeper. And you could see how the attacks again started to look fluid with Bruno getting that role. And also with the advanced eights, there's always been this problem of once we lose the attacking phase and we don't win the ball up the field, then it becomes an easy transition for teams. So there are a lot of problems with the 2-8 system, which is being employed with either McTominay or Mount right now. And probably that will be one reason why Mount will find it a bit tough until he proves himself. That he can defend transitions, he can play defensively, and he can also contribute on the ball. It's going to be he has to show it for me.
I just want to harp on the stat that Ashwin shared. I think you can't argue with numbers. So I think Harry Maguire has to be the leading starter for United now going forward. The record that United have with him on the pitch, you can't argue with those kinds of numbers. So yeah, he's looking forward to a lot more Harry Maguire.
I'm wondering,
but
do you
but
want him to start with Johnny Evans by any chance?
I really do. I believe he's injured. I was quickly trying to Google when Ashwin mentioned that. I was quickly trying to Google Johnny Evans stats for United, but I couldn't get enough data for me to bring that up. But that would be the dream. Yeah, absolutely.
to be fair to Maguire, he's had a good 2.5 or a couple of games. So while we can always say it's and rightly so that it's about the opposition, but I mean, let's give him credit where it's due. He's had enough abuse as it is.
I'm all for it. No more abuse. Just let him start as much as he can. Just quickly on Unana, though, I think great moment for him. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the pod that he needs a moment. Um, I We were really struggling to find out where that moment comes from in the middle of the season when things are spiraling in the wrong direction. It's hard to kind of change momentum. But the one thing that keepers can do to absolutely change momentum is a big penalty save like that in a must-win game, absolute last kick of the game, 2 minutes after the added time. So yeah, amazing moment for him. I think that could be the real. So some of the things that RK talked about, I really believe is a confidence thing. The way that he's not playing cute passes, playing intelligent passes. He's just kicking the ball out into touch or out long. I think it's definitely a confidence thing for him as well. And for somebody like him, confidence is going to be key in playing his natural game. So hopefully, then I think he's going to step up now with that really good moment behind him. The last thing any team needs, leave alone a team which is not perhaps in the best form, is somebody who's causing a lot of anxiety as the keeper. So if he starts turning it around, I think a lot of problems will get solved at United as well.
But rather it's the concern here is that we are living too much on moments. So like, it's been 2 weeks since McTominay scored that, wonderful end to the game. That was supposed to be the springboard. Our patterns didn't change. The next game, Dallo, scores a screamer, and again, we win the game. The patterns didn't change against Copenhagen, and then people like Maguire, and it's heartwarming to watch people, who come back like that, and Onana. But again, it's like nothing really is changing in terms of the patterns, and that's what really concerns me. That this can only go till a point, I guess.
But who needs patterns? Who needs coaching? Who needs anything when you have Toki Taka questioning whether Eric Ten Hag is going to lose the dressing room because he's freezing out Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay? And is Onana
Jadon
ever going
Sancho.
to come good? Jadon Sancho. And then all of them are just delivering win after win after win now for United. So who needs tactics and coaching and patterns when Toki Taka is doing all the work for you?
Just give us the money and we'll jinx all your non-performing assets into Ballon d'Or contention. Anyway, let's move on. Folks who grew up in the 90s and noughties would remember No Mercy as a WWE pay-per-view which had awesome matches and things like that. But No Mercy this week was just for Everton. Merseyside was completely red. Liverpool not thrashing them in terms of scoreline, but playing a comfortable game and eking out another win and just being comfortable. And Everton having a rough time of it. Their chairman died yesterday or day before yesterday, and then yesterday the Premier League recommended that they be given a 12-point penalty, which as it stands would take them bottom. It's just been the recommendation. As I see the surprised looks on the faces of the panel, that's the recommendation of the Premier League in terms of the financial irregularity that Everton have shown. The final decision will be for the independent regulator, but they do take that into consideration. So if that happens, Everton might well go down, which I think, given their current state, might probably be a better option in terms of their financial stability, because right now it doesn't seem like there's any end to what's happening, and they have this 777 partners who want to buy them, but apparently 777 partners aren't even paying their own employees, so where are they getting the cash to buy Everton? We'll see. But Radhaji, coming back to Liverpool, your other Merseyside club, um, comfortable win, things are looking good.
Yeah, just before we move on, I think do you mentioned that it might be the best thing for Everton. I can't think of anything that could be more catastrophic than them getting relegated. They apparently have been so under the era of ownership. They've been so irresponsible that they don't have relegation clauses in their contracts. They don't have any semblance of a healthy wage structure. They got a whole bunch of lads from Barcelona, started paying them real premium wages. So they've done a lot of mismanagement in their finances and their books as well. So if they get relegated now and they don't have the Premier League revenue, I see it becoming a spiral. And it's not. I think Everton is definitely a club that should be in the league. Their atmospheres are really good, although this Merseyside kickoff at 12:30 was absolute crap atmosphere. I have to say, but in general, both Mersey teams do have a good atmosphere. A lot of character in the teams, a lot of character in the crowds. So yeah, I think that'll be catastrophic for them. Pretty bad match for from their point of view. I think they had a chance in 40 seconds. I think that was the only chance they had in the entire game. Um, I think at 11 versus 11, I don't know what has happened to Daish's ability to kind of stifle teams out of the park. We were just breaking through their midfield and getting counters for fun. I think it would have been a lot big. I think it would have been a much better victory for Liverpool if it had stayed 11 on 11, because we were countering for absolute fun. But you could see there was a lot of rustiness on our end as well. Luis Diaz, Mo Salah getting into really promising positions, but the final ball was just really bad. I think the hangover of the international games was definitely there to see. But overall, we still played much better than Everton did. Ever since they went to 10 men, it was a no contest at There was just only one team who was going to win that game. Everton didn't even want to try after that. So yeah, control the game, lot of positives. I just want to talk about a couple of things from a Liverpool perspective. One is about, I talked about maybe in a few weeks ago. I think this could be the best squad that Klopp has had as a manager of Liverpool. I don't mean that the players of every position are the best that they've ever been. Like there's no Mane in the squad. Obviously, Wijnaldum and the likes, and Van Dijk is not the same Van Dijk as he was in the past. But what I do mean is that from an options point of view and how good the bench looks, I think this is the best overall squad that Klopp has had, and he seems to be absolutely enjoying it. For the first 6 7 years of his management, I always thought the one weak point in Klopp was his in-game management with substitutes. I think this has become suddenly overnight. It's become one of our biggest strengths. The way that we've been changing games through our substitutes, bringing on players in the middle of matches to absolutely change the game, change the momentum, has been immense this season. At one stage, after he realized that Everton are just shutting up shop, he took off the left back and brought in a forward. I think that just shows when he has so many options, Klopp is really enjoying tinkering, making some experiments and stuff like that. I'm absolutely loving it. I think he's changed so many games that were going in the wrong direction. We've come back from conceding a goal so many times because of our substitutes. So that's really exciting for me as a fan. The other thing is Darwin Nunes. I think he had a very short stint, but he was on fire for Uruguay during the international break as well. Scored and assisted against Brazil as they beat Brazil 2-0. It was, I think there's been no more market change in a player that I've seen than Darwin Nunes. He will still miss his chances. That's not the part of his game that has changed, but his involvement and connection with the other players and his involvement in build up has just gone through the roof. He seems like such an intelligent player who you can play through now, rather than just a guy who comes and causes chaos and with his pace and runs and things like that. He seems like very much a part of that attack, and I'm really excited to see what comes from him now going forward. I think he's going to be the starting center forward for us now for the next few months.
I think with respect to the Everton red card, I really feel as having watched Ashley Young play United Liverpool over the years, that Ashley they played Ashley Young on the wrong side, and he was up against Diaz. If he had been up against Salah, he would have kept him in his pocket just like old times. I think that
This
was
I just I want to know. I want to know how far back United fans' memories go, man. That happened for a couple of games. After that, Salah has been roasting um, everybody who comes, starting with Ashley Young. I think the first win that we had at Old Trafford was Salah scoring a hat trick against Ashley Young. So I mean, how far do memories go for United fans? I want to know. Maybe if you close your eyes and open it, it's still Fergie managing the club, perhaps.
those days I would take back in an instant, in a jiffy rather, no doubt about that. But Swag, talking of Everton, I completely agree with what Radha said earlier. So I didn't get what you said by saying that they are better off getting relegated. And I have another question on that. If Everton are going to get punished with a 12 point like like what is the Premier League doing about Man City?
So I think the way this works, and this is a question that's obviously come up on the internet ever since this talk about this 12-point penalty came about. People are like, okay, 12 into 115 is so much. So Man City basically getting relegated to the Southern Conference League. But I think the point is this is one charge, and they had a pretty airtight case. They don't want to take the risk again against Man City because Man City comes with this army of lawyers, so they want to have an airtight case before they take it to the tribunal or court or whatever, wherever they take this basically.
It's a bloody farce. Since like Ashwin mentioned a little bit earlier, can we replay the seasons? That'll be fun. Replay the game, null and void those Man City seasons. That'll be fun. I think a couple of extra titles will be nice.
Yeah, but you never know. They might just do what Tour de France did when they removed Lance Armstrong's titles. They basically said no one won those
Yeah.
seasons, so
Kind of
that
like the
might not be
COVID,
that nice.
kind of like the COVID days, right? When Robert Lewandowski should have won the Ballon d'Or, but he did, which is also a farce, by the way. But I was listening to the the AC Jimbo podcast. I'm forgetting the name now, but
Totally.
you know which one? Yeah, totally. Yeah, thank you.
We
Uh,
do name our competitors on this pod. It's okay. That's fine.
yeah, they do
Yeah,
slightly better
they're the
than us.
guys who stole our talking moments of the week and
Yeah.
started their own version. Yeah.
But anyways, they were saying that, obviously this is the charge from the EFL, right? But ultimately what happens is that it goes to a tribunal and then it's basically a panel of three people who decide whether the charges are valid enough. And in most cases, it gets reduced by quite a notch. So they might not even have like a points deduction. It could just be like some fine or something of that sort. Or they could have like a 3 point or a 6 point deduction. So again, right now it's still very much up in the air. I think Everton fans definitely deserve much better. They, like United fans, have gone through some really bad rounds of ownership, and and of course, like there has been a lot of mismanagement of funds as well. I was reading somewhere that they showed that they had 150 million loss because of COVID, and which was much more than any other club had shown. So they're definitely, cooking the books in some respect. But again, the tribunal will decide whether they deserve those 12-point deduction or not.
Talking about points and deductions, Ashwin, I see you took a hit for Ollie Watkins in FPL and yet have come out on top compared to the rest of us, not the overall league where Uday is leading. So in the battle of the mediocres, you've come out on top. Radhaji, you hate FPL right now, I guess. You had like a 70 plus point game week and you dropped 2 spots. So my
Three
question
spots,
to
swag. Three
oh
spots. I dropped
sorry,
3 spots after scoring 71 points. Captaining Kieran Trippier, getting 20 points off him. I thought I was a genius and I dropped 3 spots in the league. Yeah, FPL is a farce, guys. The only bigger farce than Man City.
so my question to you guys this week is who's your captaincy pick? Is anyone going for Haaland against United or is it someone else? Is it Ollie Watkins? I don't know.
It is a tempting proposition to captain Haaland, because didn't he score a hat trick last time? Or maybe it was the one before.
He probably
Uh,
scored a hat trick against 35% of the teams in the league also. It's a it's give and take.
no, I think again, like obviously, if there is one club that he would want to face to, break his so-called lull form, I think it is Man United. But again, I don't think I'll be captaining Haaland. There are so many better options this week. So you have Salah, who I've now got on wildcard, so I'm happy about that. Unless he gets injured or something today, uh, in which case I won't be happy. Uh,
Wash your mouth with soap, Ashwin. Like, just shut your mouth.
and then, so obviously one of the Liverpool guys would be a good captaincy option.
Looking
Saka
at
as captain.
Gabriel Jesus' form, I think I would pick him, probably for Sheffield against Sheffield.
So I think he's got an orange mark, a yellow mark or whatever for
Which is
availability.
this explains
So
why RK does not play FPL, because he's probably not aware of the fact that he has an orange flag.
Or,
Uh,
or is it that I don't trust Arteta's crying?
it's
but,
fair.
No,
That's a fair
no
point.
one, no one, no one should be trusting that.
uh, but yeah, I mean, Arsenal have a really good fixture, right? So Saka is definitely another one of those who you could potentially captain. And again, Ollie Watkins against Luton, it is also a good captaincy pick, I feel, this week.
Yeah, I just want to throw in one name here, a certain Brian Mbuemo, who last week Radhaji said, hot pick, guys, drop him. He comes back and scores 14 points.
Let me just clarify. I said I dropped him. I encouraged Swag to do the same, not our illustrious listeners.
And
But to be
and
fair,
and
I
let me
dropped
also
him.
clarify that Mbuemo is playing against Chelsea. That's where this comes from.
That ex-
It all makes sense
that
now. No,
You
but
got
but to also clarify, I dropped Mbuemo to get Madison, so no regrets there. So Madison is flying, and I'm happy with that. But from this week's point of view, I am torn between two choices. I think Saka is going to be playing a pretty good fixture against Sheffield, but my heart is leaning a little bit towards Darwin Nunes against Nottingham Forest at Anfield. So that's one I'm keeping my eye on as well. So between the two of them is where I think I'm going to go with my captain pick.
Do you think Darwin Nunes will start because he's obviously not getting those minutes, right? So it is still a
So I
risky
think
proposition.
I think the problem is he is so clearly the number one starting center forward right now. It's just that every time he goes off and plays for that freak of a international team coach, that is
Mm.
Bielsa, he comes back with some 18 cramps for how much he's been made to run in midweek. So Klopp did mention that he would have started him, but he came back with a bit of a cramp. That happened even the last time they went out for their international break. So he seems to be on fire for Uruguay and then can't walk for the next few days after that. But yeah, this weekend he's starting tonight. In a couple of minutes they kick off against Toulouse. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I do expect him to start at the weekend against Forest as well.
Okay.
Yeah, talking about non-captaincy picks, I think Douglas Luiz is also a good pick from Aston Villa. And of course, the Spurs boys, how can we forget them? Like if you don't have Madison at this point, you need to take a hit and get it.
Yeah. Talking of Spurs, um, flying high, top of the league, Madison on song, Sun on song, no one recalling someone called Harry Kane, no one caring, Udogi, Vicario, everyone's working out fine. It's like Cool Runnings, the London version. How long do we expect this to carry on? When do we start taking them seriously as a threat for the top four, if not the title itself?
Man, you can never be sure with Spurs, right? Like I remember that Leicester season when they should have won the title pretty much. So I'm still on the fence with them. Of course, like they have been very refreshing to watch as well. You can see that what Ange is trying to do. There's a definite style of play. Son is obviously playing much more forward. Again, a good FPL pick, by the way. So he's. I mean, he's probably become the Harry Kane in absence of Harry Kane. He's no longer playing on the left wing. So that's helping. And some of the lesser known players or people we had not even heard about, like that Dutch guy, what's his name? Van der Wan? Or something like that.
The win,
Van
Uh,
der
yeah.
Ven.
Van
Yeah.
der Ven, yeah. Uh, Udogi, Bissouma, certain games, Madison, of course. Like they're all like they've just upped the ante at Spurs. So I still feel that they're not champions material. And we have the likes of City, Arsenal, and now Liverpool as well, who are really gunning for it. Um, I think I'll probably give them till Boxing Day and then
That's actually the right timeline, Ashwin, because till December 10th, Tottenham, they play Palace tomorrow. After that, they play Chelsea, Wolves, who are now becoming a little bit of a tricky fixture as well, Villa, Man City, West Ham, Newcastle. Those are their six fixtures, or sorry, seven fixtures coming up now till the 10th of December. So I think this is going to be the telling part of their season. At least four out of those six are extremely difficult. Wolves is a bit tricky. Palace should be straightforward. So yeah, I think this is when Tottenham, their hopes for the season are going to stand out. I don't see them staying top of the league at the end of this run.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing, looking at the fixtures because few weeks back, after the Tottenham Liverpool is when, we were talking of the next two or three fixtures being, very nice, and that's, they would, get through those fixtures. We were talking of Luton and, like the game that they just completed against Fulham and then Crystal Palace, so all of these good fixtures, but after that, the next five fixtures are going to be the real test. But as Ashwin said, it's a really coherent team, so that's the good part of it. Things are there which look sustainable, in terms of how they play. You can see those patterns, the identity, and of course it's like the Son and Madison is like the old Kane and Son partnership assisting each other. And I think the more entertaining part is when Son tries to score off Madison. It's not the first time that it's happened. I think there was some game previously also where he tried to take the ball off Madison's feet and they both fouled. And in this game, they celebrated together with that dart celebration, and then after that, Son it's his goal scoring nature, and it again takes the ball off Madison's feet almost, and then they again have that argument. So I think that's their relationship is a bit entertaining for me at the moment in that team.
And I don't know about you guys, but bit of a unpopular opinion. I actually think that this is a better combination than Kane and Son, because for me, Kane, as great as he is, I feel like this positional change for Son has really unleashed him. It's what I think his skills are more suited to, playing in the areas that perhaps Kane maybe had a little bit of. He had that monopoly to himself for a while at Spurs, and Madison is the perfect giver. So rather than Son just being a counter-attack merchant and looking for Kane in certain positions, he's now actually has Madison behind him, who is not thinking of scoring as much as Kane was as well. So I think Madison is there just to put things on a plate for Son, and Son is tireless. He's unselfish. He's the perfect kind of player to give things back as well. Madison is in hot form. So I think actually I'm finding this a lot more exciting to watch than I used to. For me, Kane just slows everything down a bit. And he's effective. He's very good. He's a world class player, and he's top of the scoring charts at Bayern Munich again. He's going to be great there as well. But just from a visual point of view, I'm finding these two much more exciting.
And there's still more to come from them, I guess. Hopping across the capital, London, we have Arsenal, who drew against Chelsea, came back from a two-goal deficit, obviously helped a bit by Robert Sanchez's mistakes. And for once, I was thinking, okay, probably this is the turning point for Chelsea, but not to be. But anyway, so Arsenal came back to glean a point. Then they've beaten Sevilla, so that's again a booster for their confidence. And now I think they have an easier fixture this weekend in terms of Sheffield United. So they're not letting go. They're keeping up the pace, and I think they will be there or there around when it comes to the final count.
It's more from Chelsea's side, that I wanted to talk about, because there are a lot of teams that have kind of neutralized Arsenal this season. Even if I look back at the United game, I think that was an even game. And then there are other teams, where Arsenal haven't found it easy to kind of impose their game. And we talked about it in the spot as well, right? But I think for the first time this season, if I'm not wrong, there was a team who kind of, I think, tactically won the battle and outwitted that opponent, and that was Chelsea. And last couple of games, we have seen, Chelsea showing, sparks of coming into real life. Before that, even Ab was talking about the XG being good, the performances being pretty decent in position, etc. But in terms of finishing being really bad, and then making very very poor mistakes, mistakes at the back, because of which Chelsea really didn't have much points to talk about. But then last few games you can see the uptick in the results and the finishing and the goal scoring as well. So I thought, of course, the goals were really lucky. You can talk about, was the handball also a valid decision or not? Yes, his hands were away from the body and all that, but I think he had, so little time to react and coming off the other player, and also, two really lucky goals. Swag's moment of the week. So let's not talk more about that. We all know where that was going up. I was kind of reminded of one Tom Cleverley goal as well. Slightly different from that, where he showed so much surprise and then behaved as if he scored that goal willingly. So anyway, but apart from that, the performance was so good. And we talk so much about the striker misfiring. This time they went with the false nine. So tactically also, having to do without the two main, left, like fullbacks in the team, still able to find a way to kind of play better than a very highly wanted opponent. I found Chelsea quite impressive. So Swag, what are your thoughts on that? And how did Chelsea make it become so dominant against Arsenal, which is so tough to do?
So two things. One, when we played the preseason, Nkunku was playing in a number 10 position. He got injured just before the start of the season, so we had to change our structure and everything. When Cole Palmer came in, we had a natural number 10 guy who we could slot into that position, and that helped basically use the moves that we had practiced in preseason. So that became a bit easier. So that's one thing. Second thing is obviously with more time and conditioning. So Poch has apparently got a history of the first couple of months. He's so much into physical fitness and conditioning that the teams are running dead, and then they start to reap the advantage of that. So potentially that's happening as well. He claims that this Chelsea side is showing a faster uptick than his previous teams, so they should be up and running completely till by Christmas or something like that. Having said that, I think having had the season we had last year or last season, it's also a matter of confidence. So once, even if it's a freak goal, even if it's a freak result, I don't know, but once you have one result, you can expect that okay, some others can follow. And thankfully, we had a decent enough patch of not too threatening teams, which basically meant that we went into the Arsenal game with a lot more confidence than we would have had earlier. But if you look at it, I I would say that the two best performances that Chelsea have had this season were against Arsenal, and before that was against Liverpool on the first day. So taking both of these into consideration, I think we, like for example, we have Brentford this weekend. Ever since Brentford have come up, I think we've only won one game against them so far in the Premier League, and never at Stamford Bridge. So
You don't need to complete your that with the jinx, like it's okay.
no, so that's what I'm saying. That these are the teams we've had more trouble against recently. So once we've had this sort of run where we could beat a Fulham, who we did not beat last season at all, even once. So that, which had happened after so many years. So I think that confidence is also helping us. Hopefully, going forward, this should improve. As you said, we have a decent lack of starters. We've got Reece James out. We've got Chilwell out. We had even Malo Gusto, his backup, out. And Kunku is out as well. Chukwemeka got injured in the second game, and so on and so forth. So once I get these guys are all back, hopefully around Christmas, hopefully even earlier, but I think around Christmas or New Year's, we should see what happens. Which is why I'm not being too critical of okay where we are in terms of the table. Even that's better than last season, so it's fine. But I would like to see how they gel once Nkunku is back. Is there a structural change when that happens? Otherwise, how do you incorporate Sterling, Jackson, Mudrik, who's now coming into form? So we'll see. I think that those are interesting discussions for further down the line. And maybe there's this talk about Tony as well, which I'm honestly fed up about talking about transfers at Chelsea. So I don't want to get into that too much, but we'll see in January what happens.
So this Chelsea team is showing the fastest uptick of any of his teams. It's a miracle what £1 billion can do. It's just a good coaching, hungry players, and £1 billion, and you can actually be successful. Interesting.
Exactly.
It's a miracle what 1 billion pounds cannot do for Man United. Anyways, I I think firstly I should probably apologize to Chelsea fans because I remember in the last part being very confident that Arsenal will blow Chelsea out of the water, But I think having watched that game, you could definitely see some really um, good positional play and some really good uh, passages of play as well from Chelsea. I think partly helped by the fact that Arteta is tinkering with his starting 11 quite a bit. I think Arun mentioned in our little WhatsApp group that he's really annoyed with the fact that Partey is not playing and Jorginho is playing instead. And I think earlier in the season, when he decided to buy a second goalkeeper, that was again not necessary. I know Ramsdale couldn't have played this particular game, but it's certainly the case that Arteta is having that Pep Guardiola moment where he's probably overthinking quite a bit. And that kind of helped Chelsea as well. I think it was a game where you really need to talk about the goalkeepers. It wasn't just Sanchez; it was also Raya, who had a howler of a game. So I think it made a very interesting watch for neutrals like us for sure. I think definitely Chelsea or someone I would be keeping an eye on going forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
on Arsenal though, before we move on, I wasn't convinced with Arsenal this week. I think Chelsea in the first half particularly played them out of the park. I think Arsenal hardly had a chance in the first half. Got lucky being let into the game by Chelsea. I didn't think that they were very impressive against Sevilla either. Sevilla were knocking on the doors a lot towards the end of that game, and it very easily could have finished in a draw as well. But the only thing that I will say about Arsenal is they have now become a team where they're very very often getting the 3 points even if they're not playing that well, which is a sign of somebody who's learned from a championship push from the previous season, and they're getting some kind of clinical edge into their game. I mentioned it last week as well that Man City have a real hellhole of fixtures coming up now for the next 4 or 5. And Spurs, I just mentioned as well, are going to go through a tough patch. And Arsenal have just Newcastle in a real challenging fixture in the next 5 or 6. So I do think that because of this quality that they have, or even when they're playing poorly, they're able to pull it out of the bag. And also when they're playing well, they're quite unstoppable at times. I think they might be at the top of the table getting into somewhere around December. So they're in a good position to actually take a foot ahead of Spurs and City in this run.
Newcastle, they played Dortmund at St. James's Park in the Champions League, and lost, which was their first loss this season in the Champions League. They're knocking on the doors. Their top four battle. They are there. They will be there at the end of the season as well. You would fairly expect. But this Sandro Tonali saga, where he's been found guilty and he's been given a 10-month ban, I don't know if you can keep the receipt for 6 months, and if they can get their money back from Milan. I don't know. But do you see this affecting the team spirit in terms of a negative run potentially, or them not being able to keep up these levels that they've been showing in the last month or so?
See, I think since September, early September, when they had that really horrible day against Brighton, I think they have improved since then, and you can actually see their performances being really impressive. And you know, uh, even without Tonali, when they go on these kind of great halves that they play, and they end up generally scoring a lot of goals. Like for example, in the previous game, also they scored 3 goals in the first half. So Newcastle are definitely on a good run. The result yesterday was kind of like a dampener on their form, and that's what you come to expect from teams like I think Newcastle and Brighton, where they will, they are good teams structurally, but they will have this inconsistent, run of results, and and that ends up bringing them not very far from the challengers. So I think at least I'm getting used to this kind of up and down patch from teams like Newcastle and Brighton. But of course, Tonali is going to be a big miss for them. Not sure how much because unlike teams like United, Newcastle do have a structure, and whoever comes into that team seems to be able to play in that structure. It's not like things go completely for a toss because 3 or 4 players aren't playing. So I think Newcastle are going to be there and thereabouts in the 4, 5, 6 kind of conversation.
Yeah, just I don't know how serious it is, but Alexander Isak came off on 10 minutes yesterday during the Champions League game as well. So that could be a factor. Um, uh, from an XG per 90 point of view, the top two players of the league are Callum Wilson, who's getting 1.49 xg per 90, and second is Alexander Isak, who's doing 1.08 xg per 90. So I mean, these two are carrying a lot of weight for them. Let's not forget Kieran Trippier is in the top 5 in the expected assists column as well per 90. So they have a lot of creativity happening between the strikers and Trippier. So they can probably manage without a Tonali, because some of their midfielders who I have written off in the past are doing a solid enough job, as long as their attackers and Trippier stay fit. But if Isak is also out, I don't know how serious the injury is, but then that could be a factor that challenges Newcastle. At the start of the season, I expected Brighton and Villa to challenge Newcastle. I still do. But right now, the two really, really hot on form strikers are pulling them out of a lot of ditches as well.
If Newcastle want a midfielder, they can always come back for McTominay. 40 million, 35 million, please come back, take him.
Yeah,
You
all
would
they need
you
is
would
another
see
potential golden boot in their team. Yeah.
Get the GD down to -6.
you would seriously give away the guy who's winning you the games and is potentially going to be the Euro qualifying top scorer. Doesn't work like that, I think.
He doesn't only get us goals, he also gives away penalties back. So
Yeah, but he knew na that Onana will save it, so he was like, "Yeah, okay, take it. Let's just give them a chance." Copenhagen must also feel this. Like Hoyland's brother is playing here. Bichare ko thoda sa just give him a chance to his team to get a point, maybe. But yeah, we'll see if January McTominay is on his way to St James's Park to be the new Newcastle player. But for now he's a United player, and our talkie game, which we've come to eventually, is Manchester United versus Manchester City. We have two United guys here who've been jinxing the bloody game for 2 days on the group. I've I've even confronted them late last night about this. Anyway, the floor is yours.
Our
How
viewers, you know,
how
uh,
is
like,
this a jinx?
just
You
first things
watch
first,
football.
viewers should get to know the difference between a Chelsea fan jinxing Brentford and United fan jinxing City. I mean, United is not expected to do anything against City in this form. Okay, so let's get our out of the way first.
We can play Leicester City and still lose. So any city we play, like it's been that bad, right? Like it's I don't even know where to start. I think we spoke so much about the two games, the Sheffield United game and the Copenhagen game as well, where I would argue we were outplayed uh, for the best part of the two games, and all the fact that City have gone through this mini slump of sorts, United are probably the best fodder that they can have at this stage. Like they will be coming in knowing the fact that this is a United play which is really easy to play against. This is a United team where some of the star players like Rashford and all are struggling. So I really don't see a way for United to get anything out of this game, even though it's at Old Trafford.
Look at some like silver linings, if I may. Like I also don't think there's really going to be the way that we are playing, that we are going to be able to do anything much positive. But the only hope is that uh, whatever we are trying to do in terms of trying to win the ball in the final third, and trying to play transition, those kind of things might just be more well suited to maybe try to do a smash and grab against City than what we have been able to do against lower opponents, though. So based on the second half against Copenhagen, all that I'm hoping for is that Bruno gets to play that pure number 10 role. I think when playing a counter-attacking game, that would really help us, and put a double pivot. If Casemiro is back, or play Amrabat along with maybe McTominay. We don't really have too many options there right now who are available. And of course, I was hoping for maybe Garnacho getting a start, but looks like with the kind of tomfoolery that he's done, with all those racist jokes, he might get banned even before the weekend. I'm not sure how that works, but let's hope that Garnacho stays available for this game at least. And so it's about United, with the available players, trying to stay deep, trying to be compact, and then trying to hit the counter. So having that kind of a tactical clarity might really actually help United in this game along with the crowd. So that's the best that I can hope for.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you mentioned Garnacho. Obviously, he's made a comment on Twitter, I believe, with an emoji of a gorilla against an Onana photo, and however innocent or inside jokey that might have been, it does read poorly, and he is likely to get punished. But that makes me think, if you really want to get rid of someone like a McTominay or a Maguire, just play him in as a winger at United. The wingers' days are always numbered at United. It looks like there's not a single person who's, except for Rashford, of course, who's able to stay there for a while. So yeah, if you want to play, if you want to get rid of McTominay, then just play him as a winger. But just quickly coming to City, I don't think we're going to see any. I don't see any ray of hope really for United. Last week, even though Chelsea and Arsenal were playing, I was feeling reasonably confident that Chelsea can get something out of the game. I'm not feeling that way about United. The other thing about this is I'm really glad for Eric Ten Hag that Onana saved that penalty, and it's 3 points out of 3 games and not 1 point out of 3 games. Because if he had been at 1 points out of 3 games, and then the City result does not go in the right way, I think the pressure would have cranked right up on Ten Hag as well. So yeah, I think he's going to be fine for a while anyway, but it would have really cranked up the pressure. I don't see any way out for United in this one.
I'm okay. I agree that City is definitely more likely to win this. I just think it'll probably not be the bashing that you guys are making it out to be. I think it might be a close game, and the only reason I'm basing this on is that after the 6-3 game last season, the three games that three, I think 3 games that City and United played uh, were relatively closer, and United obviously won one of them. And even in the FA Cup final, they came, apart from two moments of madness from De Gea, they came pretty close to dominating the game. They had their own patches, so I think it will be close. I'm just basing it on that, obviously. But yeah, probably something like a 2-1
I
or a
think
3-2.
in the last couple of games, Foden has been again, he gets these chances in, like patches, but he's been again very, very good. There were, some instances of really good dribbling from him. So, like, Foden is going to be a big threat for United. Haaland, obviously, all the, talk about bad form, etc., but he gets his chance and he scores goals. He's on 9 goals, so he's still leading the pack in terms of, top scoring. But overall, recent run of matches, I think City have not been at their best. They have been a bit sluggish, and like not really able to impose the game on the opposition. But then we are talking of teams like Arsenal and Brighton, who do really have good structures off the ball to be able to control Man City. So don't expect any of that from United. But in these kind of fixtures, you never know. Hopefully, they do something like what they did against Liverpool last year, and that can be the springboard. But to be honest, that was still early days, and don't really see that kind of a performance coming. But let's hope for the best.
So on that note, we'll move on for this week. We'll reconvene next week with the results of this game and the other 9 games that will happen in the Premier League, starting with Palace versus Tottenham tomorrow. And we shall see where that takes us. For now, listeners, that's all from us. Bye bye.